Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for the brand new video, and just when you thought it was safe to go to sleep, you're seeing this Nasher once again for the third time in about 12 hours. And I am fully aware I'm going to post this video knowing about 3 people is going to be sent the notification, but at the same time, how can we start the season off without a preview? So let's preview it. But as it is so late at night, we're just going to dive right into this video. If you didn't mind, as we go on another footballing journey together, hitting the like button, maybe even subscribing if you're new on. Let me know your predictions down in the comment section below to help people find this video. That would be greatly appreciated. But I know it's on me to go ahead and earn that like and earn that subscription. So let's go ahead and try to do it. And as always, that means we'll start off with the old oppositional preview and dive in and speak about Motherwell. Now, if you caught my last video where I was done a league prediction video where I broke down every team briefly, I didn't actually go into any detail into Motherwell because obviously I was hoping people would like to see the preview video. Some people fired in the comment section, they would like to see it. So it is here. So we are having a fresh conversation about Motherwell, and it's probably very good that we are, because what we've got to discuss is actually a wee bit more than a bite size, and that is the fact that Motherwell come into this game versus Rangers undefeated so far this season. Not a sentence I've ever said before, I think, on this channel. Now, of course, the game's the football in the Scottish League Cup group stage, and people will talk about the level and, oh my god, they should be beating these teams. But again, we as Rangers fans know if Rangers were beating the teams we're expected to beat, we'd be a lot more happier as a fan base. So again, you've still got to turn up, you've still got to do your job, and with it being so early in the season, you know, ugly results, ugly performances can happen, especially under a new manager. So credit where credit's due. Motherwell's been turning up and they've been winning games, and they have been building towards better performances, because their first win of the new campaign was a slowish start, as they ended up drawing 2 each and requiring penalty kicks to beat the likes of Clyde, would have ended up holding their nerve and taking some ridiculous penalties. By the way, I went back and watched some of it. I even got Goxie's reaction in his vlog, so you got to really see it going to the top bin. And yeah, they held their nerve on that day. What followed after that was a last minute winner versus the likes of Peterborough, where again, they're requiring last minute winners. They still went ahead and scored it. The next game was a much more comfortable 1-0 versus Steny, or as comfortable as a 1-0 can ever be, before they went out and run with their best performance in their most recent game of football, which was a 3-0 Scanton versus Greenock Morton. Now, of course, in today's video, we're not really going to dive down how many shots and the possessions and all that in these types of games, because again, they are expected to win, and the way they were playing will obviously be different against the likes of the opposition they played compared to who they'll play pretty much every single week in the SPFL, where it's a much more even playing field. Then they play the Old Firm, and you know which way that ends up tilting, right? So we're not really going to break down to that, but we are going to look at some of the things that really stood out to me, especially with who's been their best player so far this season. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's Lennon Miller, because that's all that seems to dominate Motherwell news and Motherwell conversations. Everybody is talking about Miller, but it's not him. The guy that's been the best player so far, or the most dangerous player, or the player, me as a Rangers fan, 24 hours or less than that now as I'm recording today's video, from actually playing them, who's on my mind and who I'm worried about, is their forward or slash winger that they've got, Mawanese, who has been absolutely rattling the ball into the back of net, as he's picked up 4 goals in the 3 games that he's went ahead and played. He's a ball carrier, he's confident with the ball, he can run, he can shoot, and he has been playing really well. Again, we'll see if that level of performance translates to league football, when it is again much more tougher conversation. But if you're talking to me, who's really impressing and who needs a conversation and who needs to be spoken about, it's him, rather than maybe the likes of Lennon Miller, who every Tom, Dick and Harry wants to talk about. But you might be surprised to hear he's not at the top level. Is he regressing? Is he having a bad game? Has he spat the dummy? None of that, ladies and gentlemen. He just simply hasn't played. And if you check for even a second on any social media or into your Google search, when you type in Lennon Miller, it's Lennon Miller bid, it's this team preparing bid. It's all the conversation. And I think the way that Motherwell are operating right now with their starting 11 and how they're playing in their rotations, it looks to me like a club that's preparing to lose their best asset. And what's life going to be like without the likes of Lennon Miller? So I feel like that path is starting to go now. Again, he is still officially a Motherwell player right right now, and he could end up still being there by the time the window shuts, but it looks as if the club's preparing for life without the young star boy, and if they do end up getting the rumoured fee between, what, 8 and 10 million pounds, you know what, fair play to them. And I actually really hope they get it, and I'm not being disingenuous, I'm not setting up here for a joke, because if Motherwell are able to get that type of money, which is probably the going rate these days. In fact, it's lower than the going rate in England and League 2 and all that stuff, the Championship, League 1, all the other leagues when you go there. That's about the standard, you know what I mean? The guy that got sent off and got his pants pulled down versus us against in the Panathinaikos side was sold for £10.5 million, and he was barking versus us. So when you talk about an 18-year-old who is now an internationalist and playing at really good there, people can scoff at it in Scottish football, but that's because we are getting held back with our mindset and what we're getting told we should be getting. Football has moved on. Now I know we're still puppeted by idiots in charge of Scottish football, by Neil Doncaster, and we've got all these bad TV deals, so we think the scraps and people, so it scoffs at the likes. Motherwell want £8 million for a player, by God, but it's no that way, and I really hope they end up getting the level of money they actually want, because not only will it be great for Motherwell, but also sets a precedent for the rest of this league that Scottish football is trying to copy, or trying to catch up with the way that the rest of football is actually run, and it's actually getting some value for the valuable players, rather than saying, oh, it's Scotland, it's just gives 500k, here's 750k. Nah, push all that to one side. Good luck to Motherwell. I hope they get as much as they can. But the Lennon-Miller conversation and the Lennon-Miller transfer saga to one side, because there's enough said about it by every single Motherwell version of myself out there. I want to move that to one side because Motherwell actually have yet another new manager. If we go back a year, they went through 3 managers, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 4th Motherwell manager we are having to talk about. Obviously, we touched on that earlier on with the earlier video that if you didn't catch, hopefully you will check out, as we did spend a wee bit of time on it. But we did talk about Kettlewell and the way it went wrong at Motherwell, right? Kettlewell ended up leaving and quitting his position due to the abuse he was getting from the Motherwell fans and the way it was gone at the club, right? So he ended up leaving out there. That opened the door for Wimmer to come in. Now, Wimmer was there for 11 games, you know what I mean? Blink and you miss him. He returned back and ended up going and joining a team in the 3rd division, ladies and gentlemen, which leads them to Big Jens, who is their current new manager, who you may remember from his time at Norwich in about the 2009 season. But if you're not a Championship manager, alcoholic in terms of that aspect, you'll no really remember about him. But what you're probably focusing on is, has their style drastically changed? Are they new this type of team? Are they new this type of team? Because we as Rangers fans, we went for Clement, where we sprinkle in a Barry to Russell Martin, and we can see a massive change. Is that the same way for Motherwell, as they went through 3 different managers in a calendar year? Truthfully, I don't think so. And I say that because there is slight tweaks to their system and how they go about their business, but it's not a complete new outlet in life. They're not getting the ball doing playing Brazilian samba football. They're not chipping up here, doing that. And they're not even playing the progressive high press style that we've seen Russell Martin's Rangers team go ahead and play. They do play a similar style to the 4-2-3-1, a 4-4-2 variant, or a 4-5-1, whatever people want to say these days. It basically drops into a 4-5-1 when they've not got the ball, but when they have got the ball and they're pushing forward, you do see that extra man come up there and they try to make it a 2 and play off what was their solo striker to get men forward. And again, that's a similar system in a way to what Kettlewell did. Now again, I would say it's more of a bridge between Wimmer and Kettlewell, as you've got maybe the structure of Kettlewell, as you knew what you were getting every single time you played a Motherwell team, but they have got a wee bit more of attacking instinct. So when they get the ball in the right position, it's no, I'm getting a nosebleed up here, I don't know what to do up front. They do commit more men forward, especially on the counter-attack, and again, so far this season they've been dominating every game in terms of possession, getting forward and having a lot of shots. But I'm just not putting enough stock in that just yet until I get a couple games in the top flight of Scottish football and see that's the real way they're playing. I think once that whistle goes versus Rangers, we'll see a much more rigid 4-5-1 formation, and they'll look for runners in behind to really get behind the high line, especially your centre halves. And truthfully, that's all I've really got to say in terms in the Motherwell perspective, is they've not drastically changed their team both on and off the park with new additions in and around the building. The likes of Eli Just, who I think's been added and has been playing games of football, could be a potential pain in the Jacksy tomorrow. He's definitely one. I look at down the right hand side, he's got a wee bit of football. You'll see it when you see it the more. Sometimes you just look at someone and say, you've got a bit of football, but you can see he's got that. He can potentially put defenders and fullbacks on their jacks. He can cut inside, he can link up the play, and he can chuck in an old cross as well so far for Motherwell. So he is definitely one to look at. But again, in terms of their transfer business so far, there's no really eye-watering stuff. The likes of Jordan McGee, who's probably the most familiar name to us in terms of Scottish football, coming from Dundee, was signed when he was injured, and he's still injured. How very Rangers Football Club of them. So he's not going to be a part of tomorrow, and that's all I've really got to say about them. You know what I mean? They've been very, very impressive this season. They're sprinkling goals throughout their team. They're not as one-dimensional as they previously were, but I'm fully expecting that 4-5-1 to drop in and to give everything in to that midfield battle, to try and flood it and to try and hit us on the counter-attack with a slight tweak in the old structure. But with that being said, that's reached the end in the Motherwell side. Now let's get to Rangers. And you know, where I was nervous for Champions League football, because again I underlined how vital it was and how important it was for this football club to go ahead and reach that, there's just a different level in nerves, and I truthfully almost feel sick to my stomach in a way as well with that, because the more I think about it, the more nervous I get, the more worried I get. Oh, what if it goes wrong, what if it goes wrong, and what if it goes wrong? But I think that's what happens when you truly love your club. You know, when you support your team, when that the season opener is ready to rock and roll, all the nerves really truly bubble up. But again, when you look at it and you push all your emotions to one side and you look at it in terms of an out-and-out battle, it is going to be really interesting, because this is the true first test for Russell Martin in terms of what matters most to every single Rangers fan, and it's something that needs to be put right, and it needs to be one of his main managerial targets, is to fix this domestic form that has truly been embarrassing for far too long. And he comes into this game where we've talked about Motherwell being undefeated and all that stuff and giving praise when praise is due. Rangers, despite the knife suit and stems of Russell Martin, despite the nerves that is there regarding is he the right man, is he the right man, and even despite the performances not being great, we are also in competitive matches undefeated. And I think if you asked any Rangers fan that when the draw was done for Panathinaikos to get through both games with no fresh injuries and to be undefeated, taking confidence not only by qualifying it in the next round, but a wee bit behind them to show there and have a bit of grit between their teeth to take into what will be a tough test, every single Rangers fan would have bit your hand off for that. But again, there is still that frustration. There is still people that didn't trust Russell Martin. So I hope he goes into tomorrow's game, and I just hope and pray, even more so than normal, that Rangers are able to win tomorrow. Because if he goes ahead and wins, ladies and gentlemen, what he's done is got a win and a draw. He's won at home, he's beat Panathinaikos, done his job. He's went away and got a difficult game, absolutely managed his way through it and grabbed a draw in that game, making sure we qualify. And then if he goes ahead and wins this game, he will be the first manager in donkeys to win their first domestic game. In terms of the season opener, and Clement, who we all heralded as an absolute king when he came in and everyone voting right away and everybody was excited, he failed to win the opener. Michael Beale, who we all thought was the brains behind the operation of 55, we were all on that hype train, he failed to win his opener. So Russell Martin, despite everything that's got said about him, has a chance to right a few wrongs that's been happening under previous managers, and just underlining that he is different. It's not going to end doom and gloom, and I hope he sets himself up that way and breaks that very, very frustrating trend of not winning our season opener. Now again, it is very, very difficult. Going to firpark, absolutely, but if he can go ahead there and get a win, he can flip and actually win the types of games that failed us last season. Because everyone talks about, oh, it's Rangers, Celtic, Rangers, Celtic, Rangers. I get it, right? That is the biggest and best derby in football, and that is what most people talk about when it comes to Scottish football. But when you talk about where Rangers truly lost the league, I should say, it was against the likes of Motherwell, it was against the St Mirrens, it was against it. I was giving these teams in the SPFL records that they have not held in 20, 30 years versus us. So he's got the chance again to turn more heads, to get more people on side by saying, look, it's still early on the project, aye, but I can get the results. And I think that's what he needs to get right. Everyone's a wee bit nervous about the performances, and the performances haven't been great. The performance, I think it's going to be a while before we see a perfect performance. I truly do. I think there needs to be patience in that, because we are having not only just a style change, a drastic style change, right? And he's brought in a couple players, absolutely, but again, at the same time, he's also trying to teach old dogs new tricks, and you know how that saying goes. So I think it's going to be a while before we're truly up and cooking and battering everyone and every stat and pretty statistic that's actually out there. But again, this is Rangers Football Club. Martin needs to realise, even when it's not perfect and what he wants it to be, he needs to make sure he's winning. So again, he's got a chance to go ahead and do that tomorrow, where I'm fully convinced it will only be a perfect performance. But has he got a chance to win? Absolutely. And he should be. But where most of this video so far has been positive and good news, and I'm trying to be excited in our perspective, there was one little niggle and one little negative that is very frustrating, as Martin doesn't have all his pieces to potentially play with in the next 24 hours, as we got the unfortunate update that Taylor, Asgard and Egeman will be missing the game of football. And I'm not really want to touch on Egeman right now. I want to talk about Taylor Asgard first, right? Because Taylor was told that he had a chance in making Panathinaikos, right? He was touch and go for the first game. That game comes and goes. You go, alright, fair enough, there's the Middlesbrough game then, right? He's got a chance to play versus Middlesbrough. He doesn't make that one. Then we were told if he doesn't make the first game versus Panathinaikos, he should make the second. Well, he never made that one either. And now we're talking about the season opener, and he's still officially ruled out. So is Martin not getting told the truth? Is there something that's not happening? Is it the same medical department that's failed us for years at this club? Is that not been tidied up yet, or at least improved? It's really frustrating when you get told, oh, it's going to be this, but then it's no, and then it's this, and then it's no. It's starting to feel like a Jordan Rossiter situation, in touch with it never turns out to be. But it's just annoying to be told touch and go for a game that was over a week ago. In fact, nearly 2 weeks ago. Now we're sitting for the season opener and we're told that he's officially missing out completely, not even making the bench. What's going on right there? You know what I mean? A bit of transparency on the truth in terms of that, and at least getting to the root of these issues, especially when it comes to the medical department. But the other one is obviously going to be Egeman, and where Egeman would be a great player to have, abso-freaking-lutely, I'm not as frustrated with him, because this one smells a little bit different. It's got a little bit of a stink to this one, where I believe Asgard is just injured and he's not ready to rock and roll yet. Egeman, on the other hand, and maybe I'm just being a wee bit nervous or a wee bit paranoid, but this one just feels like Egeman will be sold at some point. So we're not really rushing him. We're not trying to push him back to get him ready to go, as we're having a wee look around to see if a bid's going to come in to wave goodbye to the Moroccan. So that one's a little bit different. But Taylor Asgard, for me, he was brought into this club for the games like Namora. So it's frustrating to me that he's not making it, especially after being told 2 weeks ago he was touch and go. The rest of the team, thankfully, is okay. And again, just getting through these Panathinaikos games, especially when you knew they were going to be nippy and spicy, getting through with no fresh injuries was massive for this football club. It's not something that often happens when you're talking about the injury bug before the likes of a season opener and before a pivotal game as well, by the way. So everyone else is fine. The main conversation point and the biggest conversation point I want to ask you down in the comment section below, because I imagine it's gone in the old vegan mind of Russell Martin. Is it Finlay Curtis or is it Gazima? Let me know down there in the old comment section below who you would play, who should start at left wing. For me, I think he's going to go with Curtis, because Gazima's apparently not ready, and it's obviously working bringing him off the bench. But if you feel like it's time to really put the foot down and hit the gas, you're welcome for that. There's definitely no wrong answers. I can fully see why. The kid looks like he's got something special, so it is very interesting. I think the rest of the team is going to be nearly a carbon copy of what we've seen versus Panathinaikos. I'm not expecting drastic changes. I think it will be Aarons at left back. I think it will be Kieran Dill. I think Danilo will be leading the line. So we're not going to go through position for position, because I feel like it's already set in stone. In my personal opinion, the only interchangeable one for me is possibly out on the left, but I think Martin will side with Curtis first. With that 1-2 punch, he'd been able to bring the gas off the old bench. But that's us nearing the end to today's video. All that's left to do is try to predict the unpredictable. And am I going to start this season again with a cheeky 2-1. You're damn right I am. Subscribers as a cheeky channel favourite has to be the season opener, surely. And I'm hoping and praying again for Martin's sake, just to get everybody truly on side and get backing us the way a lot of people are, but just to really connect the fans once again to the manager. I hope he goes ahead and does what the previous managers couldn't, and that's kick off the season opener with that win, which would be massive for everyone in and around the old building. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, by the time this video gets up, it's probably going to be 1:30 in the morning. I know I probably killed this video and the last video that I put in between, but if you are watching today's video, thank you so much for finding it. If you don't mind checking the last league prediction video, that would also be greatly appreciated. And if you possibly missed my third other video, which is the Mike Moore video, again, it's out there on the channel. Plenty of content for you guys to digest. Apologies about that. But to wrap up today's video, thank you so much for watching. Shout out the legends that are signed up to the channel legend memberships. Thank you to everyone who's signed up to the supporter range. And until tomorrow, after the first game of the season, hopefully it's a smile on all of our Nashers as we sit and reflect. But here, ladies and gentlemen, a wee cheers to the season opener. Hopefully we'll enjoy it. I'll see you after the game. I've been CJ over 92. Take care of yourselves. All the best and bye-bye.